This year's National Cherry Blossom Festival is shaping up to be a fun one, and I've got lots of important information if you're planning to check it out. But before we get into it, hello, my name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours. On this channel, I share my best tips, tricks, and hacks for visitors who want to explore Washington, DC. And don't worry if you're watching this in early March. The cherry trees are not in bloom yet. I'm in front of a green screen, and this background footage is from last year. But I am curious to know if you're planning on partaking in this year's festivities. So leave a comment down there and let me know. Now, let's start off by talking about the official National Cherry Blossom Festival. The festival always starts on the same day, the first day of spring, March 20th. And this year it will run through April 16th. Now, it's important to understand that the official festival is about 4 weeks long, but peak bloom is only about 1 week long. So take that information and set your expectations accordingly. This year, March 20th falls on a Monday, so the official opening ceremony show will be the following Saturday, March 25th, which is the same day as the Cherry Blossom Kite Festival, one of my personal favorites. Everyone is invited to bring a kite down to the Washington Monument, and hopefully this year we'll have nice weather and a stiff breeze to fly them. Tidal Palooza is happening on April 8th in and around Yards Park. This is the same location where it was held last year, and one that I think is a great location because there is plenty of room to spread out. Tidal Palooza is an all-day event, but it's probably best known for being one of the few opportunities in Washington, DC where you can see professional fireworks. So my advice for this one is to go early in the day if you're more interested in checking out the event, and go closer to dark if you're more interested in the fireworks. One of the most popular events of the festival, of course, is the parade. This year's parade will be on April 15th at 10 a.m. If you want to attend in person, there are a few options. You can buy premium seating, which will get you a seat right at the beginning of the parade route near 7th Street. You can buy a less expensive grandstand seat ticket, which will put you elsewhere along the route. Or you can stand and watch the parade from wherever you can squeeze in for free. My advice is, if you think this will be your only opportunity to see this parade, splurge and get a ticket. If, like me, you've seen the parade before, or you live in DC and think you might come back again in the future, then standing room is fine.
Sakura Matsuri.
The big Japanese street festival is back again this year on April 15th and 16th. This is a ticketed event, so make sure to get a festival pass in advance if you want to go. The Tidal Basin, welcome area, and main stage will be on West Basin Drive, roughly between the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial and Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial. Exact dates for concerts at the main stage depend on the predicted date of peak bloom. So keep an eye on the official National Cherry Blossom Festival website to see who's playing and when. Art in Bloom and Pedal Porches are both citywide events happening again this year. Keep an eye out for cherry blossom themed outdoor art and houses decked out in pink for the festival. And everything I've mentioned so far are the big signature events, but there are always smaller and less well-known events happening too. So I suggest using the feature that allows you to filter by date on the official website to see exactly what's happening on the days that you're going to be in town. Now, let's talk about peak bloom. Around this time of year, I get this question all the time.
Rob, I'm going to be in DC between this date and this date. Will I get to see the bloom?
And to that I will answer that if you're coming to Washington, DC in spring, you will get to see something in bloom. Peak bloom is specifically defined as the date when 70% of the cherry trees around the Tidal Basin are blooming. And according to this very interesting article from the Capital Weather Gang, due to the trend of rising temperatures, the average date of peak bloom has moved up by 5 days since the 1920s. The average date of peak bloom is now March 31st. But average does not mean guaranteed. My advice for this has always been, come to DC when you can, but don't try to time a peak bloom. If you get lucky and catch them at peak, amazing. But if you don't, that's okay too. If you want to track the predicted date of peak bloom, I will link to the official tracker. Just remember that the predicted date can and probably will change over the coming weeks. Now, if you're planning to come down to the Tidal Basin, either for an official event or just to look at blossoms, let's talk logistics. Tourism in Washington, D.C. is more or less back to pre-pandemic levels, so expect heavy crowds. If you're physically able, the best way to get down to the Tidal Basin is by foot. If you can swing a hotel within walking distance of the Tidal Basin, you're in good shape. If not, the second best way of getting down to the Tidal Basin is on Metro. And the absolute worst way of trying to get down to the Tidal Basin is driving there in your own car. I say this every single year, but not enough people watch Trip Hacks DC, because every year the weekend of peak bloom is absolute gridlock. And honestly, folks, it's hard to enjoy the blossoms on a beautiful spring day if you're just full of road rage. If you're coming to DC at this time of year, you've got to pack some patience. April is always the single busiest month of the year for Trip Hacks DC tours. The first week in April is when a lot of kids are on spring break, and this year, Easter falls on the second weekend in April. So some people take a long weekend for the holiday and travel. Since you're watching this video though, good news, I have got plenty of resources from past years, including a podcast episode where I interviewed the president of the National Cherry Blossom Festival, live streams from last year's parade and Petalpalooza events, and a virtual walking tour around the Tidal Basin during peak bloom, which you can watch by clicking or tapping right over here. Enjoy your trip.